Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. In this video I'm going to repot 3 of the 8 mini Phalaenopsis that were bought from Double H a while back into lots of 4. I said I would repot them as they went out of bloom. Now some of them have had their spikes cut and the branches are progressing, so they're not actually out of bloom yet. Although in one case there are no blooms on the plant, but there is a spike with buds, so those can wait. Plus I don't want to do too many all at once. There's 3 to do here. Before I start with that, just to let you know that my second part of the archery course is destined to take place tomorrow, in between the gaps in the thunderstorms, which we have yellow warnings for. That could be fun out in the middle of a field in the thunderstorm. We shall see. We may retire to cover if it does. It looks tomorrow like the rain with the thunderstorms is going to skip round us and move. As it comes in, it's going to move upwards, and as it moves upwards it misses the bit of the south coast that I'm on, so that's a probability. We're supposed to be having thunderstorms here today. Well, it's clouded over. It's done a bit, I suppose, but threat of a thunderstorm is a long way off. There's no colour in the clouds. It hasn't got that feel about it. It's just not there at the moment. At the moment, doesn't even look like it's going to rain, let alone a thunderstorm. They can crop up quite quick though. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. But obviously, I won't be filming anything tomorrow. I'm out all day, and it is quite a long day, most of which is on my feet. So I do come home quite tired, and Sunday we will have a normal Sunday chat, sort of. I'm actually going to change the channels round and set everything up on Sunday. Now the Sunday chat is in the old Roger's Orchids format, which is unaffected. The only difference is the logo. Instead of the logo, the bottom left hand corner, that is the growing orchids with Roger rainbow logo that I did when I changed the channel over originally, that logo will disappear and it will go back to the old just Roger's Orchids logo on that one and the normal Orchid Channel, like this one would be. My normal videos on the Orchid Channel don't have an introduction. They don't have a set piece with a set piece of music and everything. It was deemed via various YouTube advisory channels, people who look into what works and what doesn't work so well, that a lot of YouTube viewers now are ultra impatient to get to the point, which I'm not doing now. This is my style. I'm not changing that dramatically. Otherwise the people that stay here because of that might wander off somewhere else. So we don't want any dramatic changes really. Gentle, casual, occasional is the changes you'll get around here. But yes, I stopped that musical intro a while back on the grounds that it wastes people's time and serves no purpose. However, the Gardening Channel does have one, and a little piece at the end as well, and the video that's just been recorded will sit in the middle. The Bonsai channel doesn't change, quite honestly. The only thing is, I will go, instead of having the Roger's Garden and Bonsai logo on it, it'll go back to the original Roger's Bonsai logo. That's the only change on that one. So those will look the same. Yeah, the difference is they'll be on this channel and not on the other one. And as I said, the gardening does have an intro, that does have an intro. The goal being that all 3 types of videos are on this channel and this channel alone, and they will be easily identified what type of video they are. Yeah? So an orchid video will have the Roger's Orchids logo enlarged with a title of some sort, and it will be obvious that it's an orchid video. Yeah, the same with the other 2. So that will all happen on Sunday. Some of you may have noticed I've already changed one thing. Because I use the Growing Orchids with Roger's logo as my Google logo, yeah, I've changed that. So my Google logo is now just an R in a red circle, yeah, with a little thing around the edge, little thing. And basically that will identify me when I do comments. So when you put a comment on my video and I reply, that's the logo you'll see, and it's a nice clear black R on a red background, so they stand out, yes. So that's already done. Google told me that it could take quite a few days before that appears in all of my places. Well, it happened during the same day as I did it, so it didn't wait till Sunday, did it? Anyway, so that's the only bit I've changed so far. The rest will happen on Sunday. Right, we'll swing the camera around and get on with these repots. It's 3 plants. They're all going to have the same thing done to them. They will all be the same. So let's get the camera around so that we can see what's going on. Something like that looks about right. Somewhere there. Actually, I think I'm going to come down a bit lower. That's coming down from on high often misses bits out. And then we'll just raise that up a bit. That should be okay like that. These are small plants. Right, so I must keep the labels with them. Now, although that says mini-Phal D, doesn't look very informative, does it? It is, because in my notes that gives a good description of the blooms that were on this plant. So if it comes into spike again, which it will eventually, we know what to expect. And that's its form of ID, just a letter. They're all like that, they all got a letter. Now these are all going to go back in the same pots, not without a clean up though. I never put the plant in a dirty pot. Now, these plants all have a plug in the centre. Shouldn't have watered these yesterday, should I? They are a bit damp. Now, I'm not fussed if I don't get every bit of bark off. It's not that important because the bark itself is pretty good quality and it's not breaking down. So it wouldn't matter too much. But I do want to get the plug out. Now this is a sponge-like material made from some sort of cocoa fibre or something like that, I suspect. These are very good plugs for the job they do for this company in this country, who tend to put a bit more effort into quality than perhaps some of the European mass producers do. And these plugs are not broken down, but they hold a tremendous amount of water around the base of the plant, which is not ideal, especially if you're relatively new to orchids and you haven't mastered the art of getting the right amount of water in the pot at the right time. And the right time with Phalaenopsis is when they've gone dry. Not because it's Friday or because it's Sunday. We don't do that with Phalaenopsis. We wait. And the idea is that you adjust the media to your conditions. Now that is a good root system. There's nothing to cut off. I'm not going to touch that. It's just going to go straight in a new pot. So we will put that down with its tag so that we don't get them muddled up, and move on to the next one. Now these are supposed to be mini Phalaenopsis. This is pushing it for a mini. That's a long leaf. Yeah? So although they're called mini Phalaenopsis, some of them are not as mini as others. What could we call them? Midi. They're not maxi. No, we've got one going through the bottom of the pot and one that's grabbed hold of the bottom of the pot. You're going to pull through? No, you're going to break, aren't you? Yes. Right. Never mind. Right, so this will be the same again, I suspect. there's the plug. Now this one does have a couple of manky roots. Not many, but a couple. But we will tease the bark out. And this time I will get my scissors out. Now I'm not a fusspot with repotting as far as sterilisation is concerned. I advise people to do it properly. In other words, do as I say, not as I do. Because I can't be bothered and I've never had a problem. I've never passed on anything. Well, people say, oh, you will pass on this, that and the other. You can only pass on something if you've got it. There's nothing wrong with these plants. Absolutely nothing. They're healthy, they're strong, and they've come from a very good environment with all the controls you can imagine as far as pests and diseases are concerned. So they're good plants, they're clean, they haven't got anything to pass on to each other. It's just not there. So I won't be sterilising my scissors. Now so far I haven't used them. When I put them away they were sterile. I did do it then. Mainly because of what I'd been playing around with at the time, which was not necessarily clean. Unknown, I mean, you know, I don't know that the last plant I was playing with had a problem, but it might have had. Whereas I'm pretty confident that these haven't. Right, scissors. Now, it's only a little bit, but that's a damaged root there. That's coming off. That's a dead root. That's a damaged root there. But I'm not taking it all off. I'm only taking it off from the point that it's damaged. That root has grown from the base but looks awful. That's a cosmetic chop because I didn't like the look of it. Not many people would do that, I'm sure. What else have we got? That tiny little leaf can come off. That's an old seedling leaf. See, now that root's damaged, so we'll take that one off. Down in the middle here, that one just pulled off. All these are firm. This is another damaged one here. That comes from there. Why I don't take the whole root off if it's only damaged is that these branch. They are a branching root system. So if you trim them back to good material, the chances are they will grow a new shoot and start growing again. So you end up, the root starts to extend. Yeah, whereas it didn't look like it would, but they will. Little bits like that. Yeah, just take it back to healthy tissue and they will shoot out. There we go. That's that one done. Not quite such a good root system, but still pretty good. I can go in there for now. So I'm running out of places to put things because I'm not being very tidy. Right, so you can go there with your tag. And that leaves the last one. And this is the one that has the variegated edging to the leaves, which is very attractive. Just a touch of yellow around the leaf edges. But it's also the special one that most people would have sent back and got a replacement, but I kept it to see what would happen. It has a terminal spike. Now, on a Phalaenopsis, a terminal spike has two meanings. It normally means the plant is doomed on the grounds it can't grow any more leaves because it has no central point. It's lost it and given it up to a spike. So it can mean that the plant is now terminal. It can also just be the fact that it comes out of the centre and it's called a terminal spike. But when you get a terminal spike on a Phalaenopsis, often the plant will produce a basal growth. So because it knows it cannot now grow, it starts to grow a new plant from the base. I don't know what's going to happen with this one. That's why I kept it and didn't send it back. I would have had no problem getting a replacement for that company had I sent it back. But we kept it to see what would happen. So it's like a little experiment. Right, how are we doing here then? Not too bad. And what have we got here? A little bit of mould. If we get the plug out of the way and see how much of that mould comes out with the plug. Probably most of it. These fall apart very easy. These are not a big deal. You could just about get away with leaving them, but you would find that as the plant grew, the good roots would go round the edge of the pot. The roots in the middle of the pot that are attached to this plug would die. Eventually they would die because it would be almost impossible to water the plant as it ought to be watered without the plug soaking up lots of the water you've just given the plant. Even though you may have only intended giving it a little bit, the plug would hold that water, and eventually the roots attached to it would probably go down. So the centre of your pot and the roots in the centre of the pot would probably die. Now, given that they've got plenty of roots and will probably grow new ones, it wouldn't be the end of the world if the middle of the pot, it would be just these few here that were touching the plug. That number of roots would probably die. That leaves some quite good ones. So, you know, it might not be a panic. So I'm just making sure that some of those pieces of bark had some white on them that looks like mould. And I'm just making sure I don't leave any of that behind. Can't think what else it was if it wasn't mould. Right. Root trimming. How much have we got to take off this time? So that one's damaged. So we'll take that. It's a damaged end on that one. And again on that one. That one's damaged right close to the base, so that one's coming right off. That's a damaged branch, so I'll go back above it and it will shoot out again. Now this root here is too big to go in the pot, except for the fact it's already bent in the shape of the pot. So it will go back in. So that's far too big. If that was just like that and it was stiff, in fact that piece is broken there, so I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't touched it. So back to there. Now it's not as long. But it's the fact that it's already pre-shaped to curl round into the pot, so it can go back in. And I think that will do for that one. So I'm double checking these as I do them, because there are a couple of the Phalaenopsis in the kitchen have got mealy bugs, and just making sure they haven't transferred onto any of these while I've got them in my hand. Right, so that's that one. That goes with that tag. That is mini-Phal B. As I said, it's meaningless. Right, I shall break off there. Now this is in a combination of the plugs, and the bark itself looks like it's got cocoa husk in it. It's also a mix of types of sizes of bark. Now that's obviously their own mix, and they probably use it for every single mini-Phal that they ever produce. And I've actually seen the place where they keep their media. It's outside, and it's like, if you could imagine a garage on the side of a house that's taller than your normal garage and deeper than deeper than a car length, quite a bit deeper than that, with a roof on, but with no front. And from the base at the front, the media goes up to the roof. It's full. And I don't know how they transport it from there into where it's actually used, probably in wheelbarrows. But it's a huge stack of media, absolutely huge. So anyway, that's a sort of closer look at the plug. You can see it's spongy and you can see it holds water. So there we go. I shall have a clean up, wash those pots, and we will get these potted up. I'll be back. Okay, I don't normally plug companies because I don't get anything for it, but this is the bark I'm currently using, mainly because I don't have to go and get it. Well, I do, but I'm there anyway. This comes from Orchid Accessories, run by Peter White, a guy I've known for donkey's years. As far as I'm concerned, he's totally trustworthy. If he says something's pretty good, it's pretty good. If he says, oh, I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole, then nor would I. So I'm quite happy that he sells this. I believe it comes from Portugal, Portuguese bark. It comes in these sizes. You've got the small, medium, which this is, and then there is a medium large and an extra large. I don't remember seeing him seeing that on his table, but basically he'll be coming to our autumn show. He comes to the Wessex Orchid Society shows with all his accessories, which is fertilizers, pots, bug sprays and media, including the Bees Grow sphagnum moss, which I also use and I also get from him. Why do I get this from him? Because I'm there anyway with the car just outside the door, and I can buy that direct with no shipping, no packing, no postage, nothing. Now he buys this in bulk and then has it split up into the various sizes. So that's what I'm using. Now this is a little dusty, but not that bad. Some bark is incredibly dusty. This isn't bad. And as far as I'm concerned, it's good enough to do this with. We will take our little mini-Phal. We will put a bit of that straight from the bag over the air cone so that the roots don't end up down in that little gully. I'll show you what I mean. I won't with that one because I've just filled it up. In the pot is an air cone. Around the air cone is a gully. That's for ventilation, with all those ventilation slots. These are good pots, which is why I'm reusing them. I would never chuck these out. So any plants that come from this company, Double H, I will keep. They're good, reasonable quality and loads of ventilation. So some crocking in the bottom so that the air cone isn't blocked up. And then we plonk the plant inside the pot, complete with curling the roots round. If you find that you've got some roots that don't seem to want to go in the pot very easily, twist the pot and they will go in. And now the idea is with a Phalaenopsis, I washed these pots and I dried them. This bark is dry straight out of the bag, which means I can do this. And when I tap the side, all the bark fills in all the holes without any bashing, pushing, pressing, messing. It just works. If the pot was wet, the bark would start sticking to the sides of the pot and might not do as it's told. Now, if you get an odd air gap here and there with a Phalaenopsis, don't panic. Don't go pressing down hard to try and get some bark into a hollow spot. Just let it be. It's a Phalaenopsis. They like loads of air around their roots. They won't mind an air gap. Try to avoid them, and by using dry media and a dry pot, you can normally avoid it. you can normally just not worry. So I'm pushing one piece down because the piece of bark above the hole is bigger than the hole I'm trying to get it to go into. So that piece needed a bit of help. Now, as you can see, the bark has virtually filled the pot. There's still a few roots we can see, so we can monitor what's going to happen with these roots. I just want a few bits just there around the base of the plant. And that's that one done. No pressing, no poking, no messing. Tag, black pot to stop the algae forming, drip tray so that when I water it, it doesn't drip on any plants it might be sitting above, or in the case of being in the kitchen, all over the windowsill. It's as easy as that. Seriously, it's as easy as that. So again, just to fill the gully and a little lining over the air cone. Pick our plant up. Aha! That one has got mealy bugs. I missed them. See them in the crevice of that leaf? There. Now I'm going to use the tag to hook them out and squish them on the bench. There's just a couple just in that one area, and that's where they like to be on Phalaenopsis. They will get on the underside of leaves, and they will also get in the crevices of where the leaf joins the stem. And then what we will do, just to get down in that crack, just put a bug killer. Yeah, I don't recommend that. It just happens to be the last one that I got, that I've still got some in the bottle. They're all much of a muchness. Most of them use the same chemical, whatever it says on the front. So I'll have to keep my eye on that one. But by just giving it a little spray like that near the base of the plant, that chemical has now run down into all of the leaf joints, all of them. Even though I only sprayed one, it just runs down. And that's how the water escapes from Phalaenopsis when it rains. Now, in the wild, they tend to grow a bit more like that, so that the water doesn't sit in the crown. But if you get water in the crown, you'll notice that the top leaf has got a gap to the sides going into the next leaf. That leaf has got a gap in the sides that goes into the next leaf. In the main, the water's probably going to escape anyway. Still better not to do it. Right, so again, we just get our roots in the pot. Turn the pot round if they don't seem to want to sit in there nicely. Just give them a twist and they'll go in. Get the plant central and upright, even though that may not be how they grow in the wild. This isn't in the wild, it's in a pot on my kitchen windowsill, and I'd rather have the plant was upright. It looks nicer than hanging over sideways. And then we just pile the bark in. When it gets up near the top, we start tapping, and a lot of what you've just put in disappears down into all the cracks and crevices. Now look, if you see there's a great big hole, yeah? Not so much now. That's what I'm getting at. If the pot was wet and the bark was wet, that bark would not have filled that hole. It wouldn't have got in there, it would have just sat there sticking to itself and to the pot and everything else. So, I work dry. Not everybody does. I mean, some people like to pre-soak their bark. I just like to water more frequently when it's new. This bark, when it's new, I could pour 5 litres of water through this tiny little pot, and tomorrow the bark will be dry. And I'll keep my eye on it and water it frequently until the surface of the bark starts to break down, at which point it will start to hold a bit more water for a bit longer. And then eventually it will completely break down and need replacing. That will be in 3 to 4 years. So we won't be worrying about it prior to then. Stick our tag back in. Black pot. Tray. Ready to go. And the last one. Quite honestly, if you've got quite a lot of plants to do that are the same size, same pots, same media, doing them all at once, that'll save you a lot of time, because you only have to get everything out once and put it away once and clean up the mess once. Yeah? It's like all the muck that came off of those pots in my kitchen sink. I've only had to clean the kitchen sink once. Same again, little bit in the bottom. Tuck the roots in. Oh, some of you might say you've buried the base of the leaves. These little seedling leaves I'm going to take off because they will be in the media. So I've just lifted those off. Yeah? They don't serve much of a purpose, seedling leaves. Now this plant was leaning over. You can see the angle on the leaves. You can see it naturally looks right like that. Yeah, well, it might look right like that, but that's not how it's getting potted because I want it upright. And with the effect of the light, those leaves will eventually turn back round and go flat with the plant central in the pot. Don't underestimate how much media you need. You might sort of think, oh, that's an enormous bag. No, it's not. I've probably used half of what was left in this bag doing 3 small Phalaenopsis. Media can go down quite quickly. And the next time I see Peter White, I will be getting another bag this size because I like it. It works well for quite a few different orchid types. And if it's a little bit too chunky for some, then I mix some of the small size in with it. Now some of my plants have got very fine root systems and wouldn't have any of this size. They would have all small. I still want that plant over slightly more, so I'm going to tip it and just push the bark down slightly on this side to hold it in that position. I want this to grow upright. That's more like it. That's more like it. Certainly not leaning anywhere near as much as it was before. So again, this is endearingly known as foul C. As I said, they all just got given a letter. So that's mini-Phals C. In its black pot, in its tray. Now all of those will now get a good watering. Because they are not a form of rescue, there's nothing wrong with the root systems, the disturbance is minimal, they're going to grow on unaffected by being repotted. So I'm not going to mess about with seaweed or anything like that. They will get a good soak with plain water now, because obviously those roots are wet because I only watered these yesterday, but the plants, the media and the pot is dry. That media will soak that water out of those roots and they'll be bone dry. So to stop that happening too fast, they'll get a good watering now. They'll go back on the kitchen windowsill and I will keep my eye on them because they will dry a lot faster than the others on that windowsill. They will need an in-between watering for a while, yeah, until eventually they stay as wet as the others. Well, they won't stay as wet because the others have got older media in. But anyway, that's 3 more of the Double H mini Phalaenopsis repotted. I've already done some. I don't know how many are left to do. In fact, if I lift the camera off, we'll go and find them. So I'm just going to lift this off, get it on my hand, and we'll go and have a look, because these are the only ones in the kitchen. All the others are in here. So this one here, that's been repotted. Yeah, that one there, that's already been repotted. This one's not in bloom at the moment, but it will be. And this one, this branch is just coming out. This one will follow on. So those two have been repotted. That's nothing to do with these. There's another one over here, that's still in bloom. That hasn't been repotted. And the other one is here, and that hasn't been repotted. So that's 4 and 3 there. So where's the other one? There must be another one. Oh, it's over there. It's up the back there, and it has already been repotted. That's not in bloom and has already been repotted. That's why I couldn't find it. So that's all of them. Yeah. We will move on to the other types of Phalaenopsis, but I want to keep these 8 mini-Phals from Double H as always separate. So they all have their own videos. They all get updated into the playlist that's just for them. So they can be followed as they develop through the years, maybe. So there we go. Repotting mini Phalaenopsis with a spongy type of plug as a central core, with good roots that will transplant basically into new media without any fuss and any bother. Now, I have had Phalaenopsis where you get them out of the pot, the media is broken down and most of the roots are dead. Those plants are not going to take off like little rockets, they're going to stall. And they may not grow a new leaf for as much as a year until they get some new roots, which they should do eventually. But in the meantime, they will just stall and not do much because they've lost their roots. They're just not going to do very well. These will do fine. No worries. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.